Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you once again for joining us for the Insight Exchange session. My name is Nasipi, and I'm the comms lead for the National Strategic Hub. Today's theme is water and sanitation for better municipal planning. And I really want to take this moment to extend a very warm welcome to each person who's taken the time to be on this call. And special welcome to colleagues at the Department of Water and Sanitation for partnering with the Hub in order to make this session possible. Also, I guess, include representation from SALGA as well as the World Bank. My colleague Nick will introduce them at a later stage. Today is also a very special Insight Exchange session. It's our last one for the year. So thank you to once again all the colleagues that have been with us when we started this journey 6 months ago. We've been able to cover a range of topics that all were intended to create a conversation around the use of data to support decision making, as well as for colleagues from different stakeholders to showcase some of the work that they are doing just to help in, breaking the silos when it comes to the data work that is happening within government.
Thanks very much. Welcome, colleagues. My name is Nick Graham. I'm the lead for governance and planning at the National Strategic Hub. The session today is going to take the format of 4 presentations from our esteemed speakers. I'll introduce them in a second. They will be covering water services regulation data, WSDP, and the data contained there. Then we'll get a perspective on local government, and then we'll get also a strategic perspective from the World Bank. After that, I'm going to give a short demonstration of some of the water and sanitation data that's available on the National Strategic Hub water and sanitation dashboard. There will be an opportunity for a facilitated discussion at the end at which you can ask questions of the panelists. We will also stop after each presentation and take questions. So there'll be plenty of opportunity, and we really would like engagement in this on this platform. And we will finish sharply at 4 o'clock to respect everybody's time. So I'd then like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Solomon Makate. Solomon, if you are ready, you can get your presentation ready. In the meantime, let me just introduce him. Mr. Makate is the Director of Drinking Water Regulation at the Department of Water and Sanitation. He is responsible for implementing the National Drinking Water Quality Consultative Audits and the Blue Drop certification programs. He's a qualified inspector for both Blue Drop and Green Drop assessments, and was a moderator for the drop assessment project in 21-22, and the reports that were published in 2023. He's been responsible for the revision of regulations and the implementation of the National Drinking Water Quality Framework. He's also an engineer registered with the Engineering Council of South Africa and the Water Institute of Southern Africa. So Mr. Makate, a very warm welcome. He's going to speak to us on both water and wastewater quality data DWS collects. Over to you, Mr. Makate.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Solomon Makate. I'm going to be doing the presentation on our IRIS system, which is a regulatory tool that we use for a regulation of the municipal drinking as well as wastewater in the country. This is the overview of the presentation, where we'll take you through the information that is available on the IRIS database. And then let me just go straight to it. Currently, on IRIS, we have drinking water quality management page, and since 2021, we have started conducting these assessments online using the IRIS system instead of the Excel spreadsheet. And then we also have the wastewater management component, and equally, we also have the Green Drop Audit Scorecard. We do have other pages that are not necessarily used by the unit, but are within the branch regulation, compliance and enforcement. One page being dispute resolution, which is managed by the Chief Directorate Economic and Social Regulation. And then we have bulk tariff regulation, which is also falling part of the Chief Directorate Economic and Social Regulation. And then in future, we plan to include the note drop as part of the assessments that we do on the IRIS system. If time allows, I think I will just do one bit of a demo, just for those that may not be familiar with IRIS. This is based on the legislation, particularly Section 155 of the Constitution and the Water Services Act. But we also have elements of National Water Act, particularly on the wastewater side in terms of the water use licensing regime, where we register the water user authorization that is linked to that. And then the compulsory national water and sanitation services standards. For drinking water quality, we measure against the SANS 241, any version that normally will be enforced at that point in time. Then the drinking water quality will be measured against SANS 241 limits that all the water supply system needs to adhere to. I've already mentioned the water user authorization, and we also register the process controllers, as well as the water treatment works and the wastewater treatment works, where we register or classify a class of a plant in terms of the technology and the size. And then we also look at the process controllers in terms of qualification and the years of experience, so that they can be paired together with the class of the plant that they have to operate. And then we do blue drop audits as well as green drop audits. Data input, we have a institutional profile. If it's a municipality, for an example, then they will have their own profile. If it's a water board, they will have their own profile. If it's a private company, some of the mines, they do have profiles on IRIS. If it's a Department of Public Works, they will also have a profile on the system. And then they will register as well this system profile, which will be the supply system, which is usually linked from the abstraction point, the water treatment plant, as well as the distribution network. Then we can be mapped to say this particular plant supplies to these sections of the community, therefore it is one supply system. This is also the case with wastewater, where the collection system is from the areas where we collect sewage and then to the treatment plant up to the discharge point. And then this helps us in monitoring of the sample points to measure the compliance against those, and then the municipalities will upload analytical results in terms of the values. And the monitoring could be done in two ways. The municipality might make use of the laboratory information management system, where data then can be automatically uploaded onto IRIS using the CSV file, or they can manually upload it by punching up the numbers, and then data then will be available on IRIS. We also have the risk and monitoring programs, which is based on the water safety planning principle, which states that if you've done your risk analysis and you have problematic determinants that you need to monitor consistently, then the risk-based monitoring program will also be uploaded onto the portal. The Water Care Works profile, we have a database of the treatment plants in the country, particularly those that are used by the municipality. We've got about over 1,000 in both waste and drinking water. Equally, the process controllers as well. The process controllers in drinking water, and then we do have process controllers in wastewater. There are elements sometimes where you find that a person will appear in both based on their responsibilities at the institution. We have laboratory profiles to check whether these laboratories do use the verifiable methods in terms of the SANS 241 requirements. The methods must be accredited, it must be standard methods, and then this will ensure that the data that we get is credible. And then we also have the Water Services Institution contact information. As and when we want to display or communicate certain information and changes, then we can easily be able to send them an email. And then this contact information also helps us in monitoring the data submission, because of as and when we don't receive the data as per the monitoring program that the municipalities has committed to do, then we send them the reminder emails to say, we have not received your data this month. Can you please make sure that you upload those results? And then we do also have the blue and green drop audit supporting documents that are related to specific KPIs. As I indicated, that now that we're using IRIS, then the municipalities can easily load all the information that is related to the green drop or blue drop requirements, and then we don't have to ask for information because of it will readily be available on IRIS for us to interrogate and assess. Data management and output, I must emphasize that this data is dependent on the quality thereof. So as you know, with most of this system, if you feed it junk, then that's what you're going to get out of it. But we do have compliance displays available to the public and IRIS users. And we have water care works and process controller classification certificates that are issued by the IRIS system. Blue drop audit resource pack, this is supporting document that we've already indicated. And then also as the reports. The reports are available on IRIS as and when they are approved by the minister, and then we make it available on IRIS. Those are the things that I think as part of the demo, maybe I will need to show. We also have various compliance report and automation of non-compliance notification, as I indicated, that if there is non-compliance, the municipality will get information. And then also when we don't get data, because not getting data as well is part of the compliance, therefore we'll also communicate to the users that we have not received information for this particular month. The system is not an island. We do have shared the information with other departmental databases. We've got the newest National Integrated Water Information System where we display the water quality information there. We also have Water Services Knowledge System that also gets fed information from the IRIS system, as well as the Water Services Performance Dashboard, where we also link our information with these systems. In terms of the information for public view, this is the link that one can go to when you don't have the user rights. The public view is those that might not have the user rights to get the detailed information. If you just want to know compliance, or you just want to know whether the river where you stay is of good quality, then that is where the public view will help in public getting access to this information. And then also for the blue drop and green drop audit reports, we do have them available through this particular link. And then we've got two colleagues that are working as help desk. Ms. Marina Niemand, here's her contact details, as well as Ikahe Mashiro with the following contact details. But I will share the presentation. If time still allows, Chair, I can do a quick demo for 2 minutes or so, and then that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Please do, Mr. Makati. You've got another 5 minutes, so please go ahead.
Okay, is my screen still visible?
It is, yes.
Okay. Yeah, for a person that might not have IRIS login details, this is what you will come across. Just that now because I've already logged in, but usually that's what you'll get. We do have news. If you click on the news, then it will show, it's just that the network is very bad, but it will show all if we do have symposiums where we discuss the blue drop, green drop requirement for the upcoming audits, they will be posted here. And then under releases, this is where all the green drop reports will be accessible. These are the latest, those that are latest published. And then it will also go back to the historical data of all the reports that one can be able to access, including the 2022. But you can search any other report also if you want to, under documents. So if you want a Blue Drop Report 2010, for an example, you search for it, then it will be able to come. Under releases is only the latest information. And under the dashboard, because I'm under drinking water quality page, we've got what we call My Water. My Water helps you to find out the drinking water quality of the area that you are in. You just need to make sure that the location in your device, it is enabled so that then it can be able to pick up and link your location to where you are, and then it will show you the quality of water in that particular area. Under my water, then it will show you the quality of tap water. I think this is quite useful for the public because of as you travel the length and breadth of the country, particularly on a cell phone, you will sometimes want to know whether the quality of water where you are visiting is drinkable. Then that's where you will use. But because of now I'm using a laptop, it's not in terms of the location. Then I will just have to search it, and then it will show me the quality of water in this particular area. For an example, if I want to know Pretoria Gardens, then it will show me. But it's much easier if you're using a cell phone because of the location functionality. Then it will give you whether the water there is, like we see, there is an issue with chemicals in terms of the disinfectant, but all the other risk parameters, microbiological, chemical, all the risk that are associated with chemical, acute, chronic, aesthetic, operational, as well as disinfectant, it will show whether it complies or not. If it complies, then it will be blue. Then if it's not meeting the standard, it will be red according to this color coding that are indicated here. When it's blue is excellent, green is acceptable, yellow is poor, then red is bad. In this case, then it is telling us that the chemical disinfectant, free chlorine residual, then is not meeting the standard. But the micro is still fine. So then I think those are just some of the things that you get out of this particular functionality within the system. What other thing? I think we've shared the reports and various dashboards. And then also in the wastewater side, we can also check the dashboard on My River. We have what we call My River. My River, then also it shows you the river in the area that you are in, whether it's polluted or not. And then you can type any river, then this will be displayed in your profile, the Val Dam and all those. And then if maybe you want a specific wastewater treatment works that might be discharging into this particular plant, then you will go to it, and then it will show you the compliance of this particular plant. In this case, I've just clicked Riversdale. It is charging to this river. For the last 3 months, micro was good. Chemical is 68, physical is 40, operational parameters is also more than 99%. So then it will show you the data as you visit the portal. That was the end of my presentation, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Makate. That was really informative. I certainly learned a lot about where to find things I've been looking for a while on the DWS website. So it's really much appreciated. Your presentation, your contribution. Thank you. So let me go ahead and introduce the next speaker. We're very pleased to have Nonhlakanipho Tau. She is a civil engineer with 14 years experience in infrastructure in the built environment. She has worked at Transnet Capital Projects, was previously the Director of Infrastructure Assessments and Analysis at MISA, and is now a specialist in water and sanitation at SALGA. She has masters in civil and earth resources engineering, majoring in hydrology and water resources. She also has experience in water and services master planning, digital transformation, and data analysis and assessment. So very, very relevant experience, and we look forward to your presentation. Please go ahead, Nonhlakanipho.
I will just move to the first slide. Thank you, Chairperson, for the warm introduction. Okay, technology is kind of acting up for everyone. I don't know if it's the Joburg weather. It is a bit, I'm in Pretoria and it's a bit wet. So maybe the weather is playing games with us. I'm not sure. Or it's just the network. So colleagues, I'm just gonna proceed for the interest of time. My discussion today will merely be focusing on the local government perspective in terms of the challenges and opportunities looking into the issue of water and sanitation data. And I will really take it very, very focused on my experience within the local government space. And I will try to really stay away from the engineering perspective of things, because sometimes one is tempted to say too much when given a platform like this. Very simple for me, colleagues. I will go through the problem statement, and I think the previous speaker has much highlighted what is happening in the sector, what tools do we have, and how are we going about some of the data that we have. Of course, that expands, and looking at the Department of Water and Sanitation being a department, there may need to be a filter, obviously, that goes down to local government, and how then do we translate the data bottom up and top down? And I think top down, Solomon has been able to really explain that nicely. But bottom up, I think I want to go through the challenges that one would highlight, some opportunities that if we were to get it right, especially for municipalities or water service authorities within the space, they might come through. And finally, I'll just highlight some of my recommendation or my outlook on the issue. So as much as in our space, there's a lot going on, today I'll just go right through to the data and information issue. And I will quickly go through the other issues that SALGA may be addressing within the local government space, which would be your lobbying. But of course, with each and every leg of these pillars, one needs data. One needs data to have informed decision. And data alone is not really adequate. One needs to translate that data to some form of information in order to enable us to allocate our resources properly, whether we are providing capacity building for municipalities, supporting them and advising them, as well as just knowing what is their sustainability and status in terms of profiling those municipalities. And also just across, as my colleague would have indicated, the movement of information from the municipal level to the provincial as well as national government. I won't say much about this, but this is how I got into the space of having interest around data, over and above maybe my research topic dealing around how to manage big data and utilize that to actually achieve certainty and be able to deal with big data in the hydrology space. But one of the key questions that was asked I know there's a UN conference now coming in 2026, but the last one we had in 2023, the key issue that was highlighted was the issue of how do we ensure that the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals actually have enablers so that we are able to say we've achieved this by year 2030, we've achieved this by this period. And one of the key questions that we were challenged as the water sector specialist was that if you can't measure it, then how do you monitor it? And I think that speaks so much. For me, it really resonated with coming back home and being able to then ask myself in all the work that I do, how do we then ensure that the work that we do is quantifiable and it's well informed on databases. And I thought I should just highlight that. And it also came with the reflection that when it comes to planning, we have all the right tools and we do a lot of planning. My colleague who would have spoken now would have indicated one of the key regulatory formats around the WSDP. And then you've got your performance that we all obviously will go for performance and monitoring, and actually the work that we do, because we show up every day and do that work. However, when it comes to checking and improvements, somehow because of the data issue, we think we are doing that, but I'm not so sure how accurate, how informed, and really how do we then ensure that we have confidence. And I think earlier I spoke about the issue of confidence intervals. So you may have the data, but you need to have some level of confidence that what you have is really relevant. And that speaks to the issue of the conversion of that data to some form of usable information, and maybe some of the buzzwords that have been used in the sector with digital transformation and knowledge management. And for me, really speaking in the local government perspective, I think the capacity building elements is what I would really highlight, just to preempt. And that capacity building does not only lie at local government, it's how then, as you will see on in my right, well related to the water sector, how do we then have the flow of information from national government to local government and vice versa. And it's very nice that at a national level, we can project statements around how the sector is doing. Now, if you go to local government level, how is that projected, and how is that at real time able to actually speak the truth of what is happening at local government and WSA level? And the water service authorities, of course, they are part of the process, as my colleague would have indicated. But I think the timelessness of this information then becomes a challenge. And this is one of the challenges that I'm just highlighting. To say that, for example, the green, the blue drop and no drop only comes out more or less biannually. State SA data only comes out after a certain number of years. But what systems do we have in place to ensure that this data is actually updated continuously, and we capacitate municipalities in doing so? Because you will have the IRIS system, but you find that the municipality does not have a data capturer who will fit the IRIS system correctly. And I must commend the department that they've done a lot to ensure that the colleagues in the municipalities are trained, they provide those platforms. However, there are other issues in the local government that also challenges how continuous then you have those colleagues who are able to do that work and ensure that this information is actually updated regularly. So these are some of the challenges, and then one will then question how do we then, on our side, who try to support municipalities who are our clients in this case, how do we then ensure that the backlogs and the information that we are actually working and profiling them on in order for us to support them is actually relevant and up to date? So I think that speaks to the issues of what everybody in the platform would probably understand, the principles of data management. And I think that is one of the gaps that one would want to look into. How do you capacitate municipalities and put systems and structures and tools in place to ensure that there's understanding around the accuracy? I think I'll start on the central number 4 one of the data and the timeliness of the data, as well as how consistent and accessible is it. The other issues, of course, the security and compliance, it does require some form of hand-holding and understanding from those who are subject matter experts. But I think if one can get the 1 to 5 elements on these principles and drill it down to municipal level when it comes to their planning, when it comes to their infrastructure asset management, when it comes to the setting of tariffs, as well as the typical systems on the operational level. If we can get those ones and these principles of data management within the water and sanitation value chain, I think we would have then achieved what the importance and the criticalness of the data and information management. I'll just make an example of how funny these things can be. Yesterday, I attended a tariff setting meeting or consultation process between the water board and one of the municipalities. And the water board reflected cost escalation on how much municipalities are charging consumers in relative to what the water board is charging them. And there was a whole lot of dispute around the numbers that were projected on the screen until the meeting ended. That PowerPoint slide was on the screen. And the question that I had with the municipalities is that this is a lesson for us to say we need to get our data and information in order. Because now for us to argue what is projected, and they are talking about averages and maximum, for us to argue those statistics, we need to have our numbers in place, we need to have the systems in place so that we can do the evaluation, the analysis of that data. So it really becomes very critical because those are the same tariffs that our consumers absorb. And if they are not happy, we might end up with protest, and there's a lot of domino effects that come into play. I'm not going to focus too much on this because I think my colleague has covered the different suits within the sector that we have. But the question here is, this is the suite of different tools that DWS has in terms of the water services systems. However, how do we then translate the real-time information on the ground to actually speak to what we see in these systems? And also that would be a challenge to our colleagues from the National Strategic Hub on how us in this platform can be able to tie in this information to make it useful to the municipalities. I don't want to ignore the fact that there is complexity when it comes to the water sector. Even if you gave me 15 minutes, Chairperson, I wouldn't be able to go through explaining what is currently happening in the sector. But what data enables us is that what at SALGA we like to call the pulse check, where you actually have your fingers on the ground on what is happening. And if we can establish some form of systems thinking when it comes to data management from local government to national level, I think that is where we can be able to then achieve the work that will enable municipalities to optimize in the water and sanitation business in the local government space. And this complexity goes over and above the sector and the reforms that are happening, and the system themselves also needs to be reformed. And you find that in municipalities, the setup is mostly what you see on the left-hand side, which is your PowerPoint, your file kind of formatting of data, and there's not really much of a setup where the different elements within the local government space speak to each other. You'd find
Sorry,
also we do have tools.
Sorry, can I interrupt you? I'm not sure if your slides are stuck, or maybe it's just my side. I'm still looking at a slide on problem statement, slide 8. Is that where you are?
No, no one can see it.
Okay, there we go. It's on the screen.
Now,
Perfect.
perfect.
So colleagues, I was trying to highlight the issues of how complex as well within now the data management issue. So the space itself has got so many policies, so many interchangeable levels, and then you go and ask municipalities that you are asking for data on your green drop, your blue drop, your node drop, you want infrastructure data, you want technical capacity data. However, there is no integrated space where one can fit this data. There is not really a framework that one can guide municipalities. Because remember, unlike some of the subject matter experts, municipalities might not have a full understanding on how they expected to deal with data. How are they transforming this to be the information that they can even use themselves? So that's why earlier on I spoke about capacity building as part of the highlights that one may look into. But also on their daily basis, if one were to have systems that are projected or are actually tabled in this manner of the understanding of the usefulness of data, then municipalities can be able to then utilize those. One of the examples I'm making in this slide is the issue of, like, for example, most of the organizations, including municipalities, would have the Microsoft 365 platform. They would have access to Power BI, but most of them, they would not even know how to use that. In fact, that there is an analytical tool that they can utilize to make decisions, to also summarize some of the information. We always laugh and say Power BI is actually an advanced format of Excel, but it does give you that a format where you can actually be able to utilize. So colleagues, I'm trying to move to my next slide. And I'm just wondering, okay, so the next few slides, colleagues, are some of the examples of the challenges in the space in terms of the data that at local government we deal with. And maybe colleagues in the platform may have ideas and solutions that one may look into. I'll also share my experience on how this water and sanitation data we've tried to actually assist or support local government and WSAs in order to improve. So I think the example here is how the master planning data, for example, can be very difficult to track and implement. So you hire a consultant, they do for you a water and sanitation master plan. They have all the costing, they have all the data on your infrastructure, your asset management data, they do condition assessment. However, if you look in the screen, I can't even necessarily zoom in to see how many rows are there. But you'll be looking for the condition assessment data. You look at more than 1,000 rows. And for one to continuously monitor that and update that information, it's almost impractical. Hence, I spoke about the issue of the need for systems. And in most cases, the consultant will give you a document. But how do you update and track the progress of the document? If you then build boreholes and then now you've actually managed to improve on the backlogs, how do you actually try to then monitor that? The other example is the issue of GRAP compliance. When it comes to asset management, we use GRAP compliance accounting formats where, because we know the AG is going to come and ask for that asset management spreadsheet or information. However, is that usable for asset management? Can we use it to develop O&N plan? Again, there's a bit of fragmentation on how the data is actually viewed when it comes to water and sanitation infrastructure. I know MISA has got a municipal infrastructure performance management system. They also have this GRAP compliance element, and maybe the challenge to them would be how do we then enhance that? I'm almost at
Kanibo, if I can just interrupt again. I'm just conscious of time. Can I ask you to wrap up?
Yes, I'm almost at the end of my presentation. And sorry about the distractions. So also the user friendliness, for example, we'll have the DEM data that is available. However, how does one then translate that into information in order to know whether there is some infrastructure intervention that needs to be done? Some of the data, like your green book, in terms of the infrastructure risk, that one may need to utilize in order to know what kind of resilience to build into a water and sanitation infrastructure may also be outdated. And finally, the information around the financing. This is from a Blue Drop report. And obviously, this room data municipalities may want to use to apply for funding. However, the information is of a rough order of estimates. Chairperson, to close off, I think the opportunities that exist, and I think my colleagues might enhance on that in terms of the cost optimization, because when it comes to business planning and considering projects, that becomes important. Strategic planning, scalability of the data, as well as the improvement in communication with their citizens at a local government level, and as well as just us in the local government space. And the last one is then, of course, the decision making in terms of which infrastructure to prioritize, the efficiency, as well as I would have mentioned, the issue of like your climate data or resilience data within the municipality will then enhance the decision on business mitigation measures. And in the space, we've obviously wanting to support municipalities in terms of private sector partnerships, and that becomes important because data is what will give confidence to any business case that you put together. So colleagues, I think the final recommendations then will be to look into how do we develop guidelines and some form of frameworks on how then one enables municipalities to actually manage and move with the data. And of course, like the systems like your RS systems are in place, but how do we then ensure there's a feed of information from local government all the way through at a real-time basis? And that would be through provision of the tools. And the key really is always on how do we tie in the asset management and development using this approach of infrastructure lifecycle from the beginning of our planning all the way through, and how do we then keep in touch with the data throughout the process of the life cycle of our water and sanitation infrastructure. Thank you, Chair. I'll end my presentation there.
Thank you very much, Nomhlakanipho. You covered a lot in a very short space of time, so I'm very grateful for you doing that. I mean, I acknowledge the technical challenges. We hope we can distribute your presentation afterwards so everybody can appreciate the depth on your slides there. We have had a very generous offer from Mr. Stephen Murray at DWS to present on water services data. Stephen, if you are ready to present, that would be amazing. I don't want to mess up an introduction, given that I don't have a formal introduction, but maybe you could just introduce yourself and please share if it's just a demo of the water and sanitation site, or yeah, I see you've got some slides. That's great. Can I ask you to keep it to less than 10 minutes if that's possible, so that we can fit everybody else in? But thank you, Stephen. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. It is again, due to Dr. Mapoli not being presented, so the presentation was not really built for this forum. It's a bit longer, but I'll quickly try and squeeze stuff in so that one can just understand. I'm Stephen Murray, working for the Department of Water and Sanitation in the Water Services Planning, National Water Services Planning Unit. responsible basically for all water services planning related issues, of which the WSDP is part of it as well, and what the 5-year liability plans and bulk master plans and all basically local government planning falls under our directorate. Just very from within the Department of Water Affairs, we've got a database. All water services knowledge are due reference and hosted in a predefined national due database. So any work that the department undertakes in consultants or any work that we issue, the originates from the due database. In other words, we've got the due database, and then people enhance the due database. At the end of the day, all products are being developed from the due database as pre-described qualifications, and therefore all our information is automatically updated as soon as we've completed a specific project. Just quickly, Chair, this might not view as it's supposed to view. Like I said, it wasn't for this forum, but basically, if we just look at the process flow information-wise, one get on your light blue blocks on top, this is where all the information is being gathered. Out of this information, we then do reliability plans, basically taking all the information, use it for local government planning purposes. Out of those plans, there's the projects initiates. The scoping reports, the technical specifications, all of that is based on due database referenced. And then parallel to this, the Water Services Development Plan, compulsory Water Services Development Plan for all WSAs, the whole footprint of the Water Services Development Plan is also an information system, which is a mirror image of the DWAS due database. Although we can't work in the WSDP in a due database, we work in an information system way. So all the fields that the WSDP do cover and all planning that happens within local government goes into this due database. And the due database is then updated as we actually implement projects and proceed with service delivery programs and so on and so forth. This is just a quick phase of one of the programs that we do in local government planning with information. One will see that when we do the 5-year liability plans, we start with the due database, the DWAS due database. We go through a complete process where each component, your whole demographic data sets, your infrastructure data sets, your groundwater supplies, your resource security data sets, all of the data sets are being updated. And through this updating, we identify the gaps, we identify projects that needs to be implemented to resolve these gaps. And then we go into a 5-year pipeline of projects that aligns with the DDM, the District Development Model requirements. So from a district development model, this is the water affairs inputs into the DDM to ensure there's a pipeline of projects and there's some deliberations with local governments with regards to time span of project implementations, as well as the updating of information related to that. Just very quickly, Chair, this is a sheet that I've drawn up from the existing database within water affairs that we're dealing with. If you look at the settlements, total there's 28,000 settlements currently in the due database. Sanitation schemes on the right-hand side, the total there's 1,100 schemes, and we go through the different components. So it's a fairly comprehensive database, and it entails all data related to the status quo of not only schemes but components within the schemes. We look at boreholes, we look specifically at your pump stations, and so on and so forth. This information, Chair, then I'm going to quickly go through the due database structure itself. From a demographic perspective, obviously there's provincial boundaries on all of that. Social services, all the clinics, the health centers, the hospitals, the schools, and the water supply information related to hospitals and schools and health centers and clinics is also embedded into this due database. Then we look at the water boundaries. I'm going to skip that one. Water services infrastructure, we look at abstraction works, all your abstraction works. We look at all the boreholes, the bulk pipelines, the canals, which is not really an effective in water services component, but sometimes people do extract water from your canal systems. All the pump stations, water and sewer pump stations, reservoirs, reticulation lines, sanitation schemes, weirs, water quality monitoring point, water treatment works, and wastewater treatment works is basically covered with numerous components within each and every single one of those data sets. We then table the data sets into the existing water infrastructure per scheme. So each and every, what this basically means that each and every scheme is connected to a community. Each community polygon represents how many people is living in the community and what scheme that is serving that community and from what dam or what pipeline is that scheme being fed. So there's a lot of tables related to it. I'm going quickly through this. Like I said, 10 minutes is a bit quickly to go through a comprehensive data table, just to give you an insight of where we are, what we are doing. There's also a huge project component in the geodatabase where all projects, water and sanitation projects currently under WSIG, RBIC and MIC as well is in the geodatabase. We also have a project dashboard that monitors progress with regards to these projects that are being implemented. It's an online system that anyone can go into and see exactly what projects are being implemented and what the status is and the progress with these projects are. Again, data sets reflected to the projects things. In summary, there's 35 data sets, 1,100 data fields, and strategic assessment data on how actually accurate those data fields are. That complies again with your WSTP components. Just to give you a good idea, I'm just going to go through the settlement boundaries, Chair, to give you an idea for each and every settlement. Remember, there's 28,000 settlements currently in the geodatabase. So each settlement is then linked to a municipality, to a province, to a scheme, water and sanitation wise. The settlement type is also defined, whether it's a metropolitan area, whether it's rural scattered, rural low density, rural high density. So the settlement is defined through that. Then for each settlement, we do have fields talking about the service delivery status in those settlements, the population figures in the settlements, and the backlogs in those settlements, what each and every settlement backlog represents. There's water category definitions in the, so for example, just the top one, for each settlement we say, is it the adequate formal, adequate informal, adequate shared services, is this the households in the, how many, what is the percentage of households below services, how many percentage of households suffer in this settlement because of a water resource need, operational maintenance need, an infrastructure need, and so on and so forth. So it's very comprehensive, and we go through basically the whole spectrum with regards to the status of service delivery in each of these settlements. Again, Chair, this information is being updated as we deliver our local government products, the 5-year reliability plans and the WSTP processes. I'm going to skip a few just to give you another idea. This is the sanitation part of it as well, all the water and the sanitation. What is the status of sanitation? What are we doing about the sanitation delivery? From an infrastructure perspective, we've got the boreholes, the canals, the reservoirs, and so on and so forth. I'm just going to, if you look at the functionality of that, for every single one of those assets, we do report on the general physical condition of the asset on your right-hand side of the slide, the general physical condition, operational, general physical condition, prime condition, is it vandalized? What is the refurbishment needs? What is the refurbishment cost? What is the replacement needs, the replacement cost, and then also your lifespan of those things. Will it reach lifespan within the next 5, 10, or 15 years on each of these components of those schemes? Operation and maintenance side of things, similarly, there's a huge lot of information related to operation and maintenance specifics of each of those scheme components. For all of the water treatment works, for an example, I'm just going to quickly go through, you can get an idea what information is captured in the water treatment work database. We go through the whole background description of the works. Then there's the works classification, the treatment works, the main type of process that is in there. All of this information is also reflected in your green drop reports. But those things needs to be used when you actually do local government planning to understand whether treatment works is running at capacity or not, and how we should actually deal with it. For each of those components, you'll see again the operation and maintenance occurrence, the general physical conditions, the asset management requirements, and incidents of these works. There's a lot of information with regards to each of them. I'm just going to jump quickly through it for time-wise. Boreholes specifically, each and every single borehole that supply water to a community is linked to that community, and there's a lot of information related to the boreholes as well. What is the blow yields of the boreholes? If we do have that information, borehole information is very scarcely, but for even those ones, the operation and maintenance occurrence of those boreholes, what is the refurbishment needs of each of the boreholes, and so on and so forth. Then, Chair, I'm coming to the last slide. If I've got time, I'll just want to show another presentation quickly, but this is then some kind of the information that we do present from the geodatabase. This is maps and information directly printed from the geodatabase information being used to print these maps. Show you in Limpopo, for an example, what is the rural-urban split, what is all the communities on the right-hand side, how many rural, how many dinges, and then also at the bottom, give you a pie chart of the distribution of communities in Limpopo. There's another map showing information on the direct backlogs in communities, of where's how many is functionality needs, how many is new infrastructure need, how many is the resource need component side of things. Then there's also issues with regards to your water resource backlog. One can see the schemes, and you can then actually see on those schemes the current water supply deficit in the schemes and the scheme requirements. What is the solution to that deficit? In a lot of the times it's conservation demand management and not really new infrastructure or new resource development component side of things. There's also then this is the reservoir refurbishment component. You'll notice when I show you all the fields refurbishment needs and so on and so forth. So this is to give you an idea in Limpopo, all your reservoirs, high, medium and low refurbishment requirements on your reservoirs. But I mean, we can do it for every one of those things. This is your water treatment work refurbishment kind of slide shows water treatment work informations from the geodatabase with regards to how many green drop, how many blue drop, where all your treatment works are situated. So Chair, yeah, that is the one presentation. I'm not sure, Chair, whether I've got 5 minutes. Then I can also go to another presentation, a very quick one that I can just, let me just open that one as well. Just to give
Stephen,
you
I think this is really useful stuff for people on the call. So I'm going to make the call that we would like to see it. So you have 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is just another outflow from our geodatabase. Infrastructure component status. Mark Bannister, one of our colleagues, had a huge issue with regards to infrastructure management. And this is information that I've drawn from the geodatabase currently with the information that we've got. Just to give you an idea from the pump stations, of the 494 registered pump stations, how many of them is dysfunctional, vandalized, operational, prime condition, and so on and so forth. The refurbishment needs, your operation and maintenance, your incident reporting on your pump stations. Basically, what one should read in that is that more than 50% of your pump stations is not working properly in local government. If you look at your bulk pipelines, there's a total of 317,000 kilometers of bulk pipelines in the country. Again, only 30% of those bulk pipelines or 37% of it actually in prime conditional. Only 7% is operational. The rest of it is either dysfunctional or vandalized. Chair, I think things like this helps a lot with local government planning. It helps a lot understanding where we should focus our projects on the grant funding that we receive. You cannot, if you go into an area and receive grant funding, supply new water with a new resource into a system that shows that from your wastewater treatment works or your water treatment works or your pump stations or your bulk pipelines is complete disrepair. You can't spend money on pumping new water into a system like that. It helps a lot understanding what the actual status of all of these components in it. This again is your boreholes. From the 128,000 boreholes that we've got currently, only 18% of all your boreholes is in prime condition. The rest of it is basically either vandalized or dysfunctional. Very few of them is even operational that works and doesn't work because of operation and maintenance related issues. And I think it gives you a total reservoirs. I've showed you the reservoir picture as well later on there. Water pump stations. I've showed you that water pump stations. This is your water abstraction works. Sewer pump stations. The situation with regards to sewer pump stations. Yeah, Chair, thank you. Again, I've run very quickly through it, but I thought it was important for the platform to understand firstly in the department that we do have a proper information system, a proper geodatabase. All the work that we do goes from the geodatabase, and the information is then recaptured in the geodatabase. And out of the geodatabase, we've got a lot of different programs that runs within the geodatabase to actually come up with the monitoring systems, monitoring tools, and like the project monitoring dashboard, different kinds of dashboard that one can produce from those systems. Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Stephen. It's very much appreciated. And from the chat, I can see that you stimulated a lot of interest. There have been some questions, particularly around access to data. So I'm going to ask if you can just respond to some of those in the chat, and there will be an opportunity for people to ask specific questions a bit later. So Stephen, if you wouldn't mind staying on and responding to those, that would be great. I do want to give our final speaker opportunity, however, so if I can ask Lubabalo Luyaba to get ready while I just introduce him. I'm going to quickly put up his picture. Mr. Lubabalo Luyaba is a senior water specialist at the World Bank Water Resources Group, where he coordinates the 2030 Water Resources Group, which is a multi-donor trust fund managed by the World Bank to address global water security. He's a professional civil engineer specializing in water and sanitation. He has broad public and private sector experience in water and sanitation, and many of you will have come across him in his previous roles at SALGA and at MISA. So Lubabalo, please go ahead.
Thank you, Nick, and good afternoon to everyone. I trust I'm audible and my presentation is flighted.
Yes, we can see it. Go ahead.
Excellent. So I'm going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to assume you've reduced my time, so I'll blitz through it. So the topic I've been given is a strategic perspective on water services data, its potential, how it can be used, and how it should not be used. And what I will do is share what I think could be the strategic perspective, the frameworks we can use, what sources we can use, and a use case of a particular strategic perspective for something that the country has said is a priority for them. Interestingly, the bank is referred to in part as a knowledge bank. In the water space, we work on water for planet, water for food, water for cities and people. Then in terms of the strategic perspective, challenges in the sector are known. I'll work on the red. There's an issue of financial sustainability and viability of the water sector, and then issue on infrastructure management inefficiency. And then the priorities of the state as per the medium-term development plan for 2024-2029 are increased infrastructure investment, access, and efficiency. And that's all in a space where you've got financial challenges and inefficiency. So it will be interesting to see how we go. In terms of a framework, lots of ways we can go about looking at this. This is what I've chosen for today, where we'll take an iceberg where we treat the events as data, we treat information as patterns and trends, we treat the underlying structures as knowledge, and then we'll treat the mental models as insight. What I can say, I think South Africa, the sector, having been on many sides of the table, where we are data and information rich. I don't know if we are there in terms of knowledge and insight. Certainly, I don't know about wisdom. So yeah, what sources we can use? I think DWS has covered this in terms of the systems that they've got and all of the information that they collect. Again, what becomes interesting with a perspective is a story. What are you looking for? What are you trying to establish? How are you doing that? And what purpose are you trying to achieve as you do that? So here's one perspective in terms of the data collected by DWS. A very important perspective when we talk about money is what Treasury captures and collects, and it's there in Go Muni. And I took the public view, and immediately we see problems in terms of what they see, in terms of what the indicators of municipalities are, issues in repairs and maintenance, issues with asset renewals, issues with asset rehabilitation. So everyone's experience of deteriorating water and sanitation services quality is in part backed up by the performance or what is observed from the financial data that is collected by Treasury, or finance-related data that is collected by Treasury. And then to form another particular narrative, so the country says it wants increased investment. To have increased investment, you need credit worthiness, which is going to determine how much you pay. And to get credit worthiness, one of the things that are considered are your efficiencies, operational, technical, financial, governance, and institutional. So some work we've done, we've put all of that together, taking data that is publicly available on the part of the department, National Treasury, and the Auditor General. Where there's a problem is tariffs. And when you put all of this together, efficiency to creditworthiness to ratings to access to commercial finance, because there's a particular perspective that is there that enables you to access capital, which the country clearly needs. This is what we get. And I would argue that the picture is dismal in terms of the metros or category A. Efficiency is lower than 50%. Actually, across the board, efficiency is lower than 50%. Creditworthiness is lower than 50%. What that means is you're going to pay a premium because no one wants to give you money. And then what is good to see is that the debt levels, if you look at debt to revenue, which is there in Circular 71, that should be under 45%, and your debt servicing cost should be between 6 and 8%. We're doing relatively well, except for here. But the issue that causes this is actually not enough revenues being generated. So again, it's quite important as we think about infrastructure, especially water and sanitation infrastructure at a municipal level, to think about the infrastructure itself, but to think about the money. Where's the money going to come from, and can we afford the money? And an interesting project that the country is doing is the white paper on local government, which is testing these assumptions of revenue to expenditure and how much revenue municipalities can generate. And a big topic is the issue of tariffs. And tariffs in an economy that's not growing, and in census, we've got some challenges with the labor force data, makes you wonder again if we're coming or going in terms of investment in particular. When we talk about a strategic perspective, appreciating that our debt to GDP, I think, is at 76%. So no guarantees are coming from national, no additional lending is going to happen, and municipalities are not on their own, but really need to work on some things. Is it possible to really get increased private sector involvement and investment in municipal water and sanitation infrastructure? Question that I would leave to everyone, for everyone to make up their minds on what they think and why they think what they think. Then again, South Africa is unique and we're super special, but we're not exceptional. If you look at global patterns in terms of investment in water and sanitation, which is, let's call it information, it's dipping. This is even before COVID. And what are the issues? Political opposition to privatization of retail water services, or low tariffs that do not cover the cost. Sound familiar? Poor creditworthiness of public utilities. If you believe me, in the previous slide, probably we've got that problem. Lack of regulation to support private finance of wholesale assets. Again, different perspectives on that. And the narrative that is being fought is private sector involvement equal to privatization? I'd argue not. The two are not the same, and clearly the state doesn't have the money, so the private sector must come in. So the question is, how is that to be done? More of the same, special but not exceptional. We've seen issues of resource inefficiency and undervaluation in our context, limited private sector participation. Water in particular globally has an issue. Leave our governance challenges aside, so it's going to be a mountain to climb. And then complex implementation. I just need to say triple P in South Africa in the municipal context, and those who know. Then data stories that help us to form our perspectives. One important perspective is a municipal administration perspective. I'll declare very sympathetic to municipal administrators because I think it's a very complex environment. The issues that they raise are financial asset management, wastewater, revenue collection, operation and maintenance, infrastructure asset management, water conservation. So if I'm to invest in a municipality and I see revenue collection as a problem, I think the discussion might end there. Another perspective that's important, the customer data story. What bothers me in this is from work done by the Water Research Commission, freely available. As I said, South Africa is data and information rich, is there seems to be a correlation between the perception of service quality and LSM, let's call it income levels or levels of affluence, where the poor people have a perception that they're getting an inferior level of service. If you mix that with a context where we're struggling to collect tariffs, the growing inequality in the country, you have to ask, which direction are we going? Are we focused on the right things? Are we trying to solve for the right problems as we work towards reliable water and sanitation services provision? On top of the mountains of data and information that we gather and collect strategically, are we going in the right direction? This bothers me. Another one, customer data story, payment, 32%. This was in 2023 of respondents. This was a national survey, said nothing, don't pay. 8% said nothing, don't have to pay. 19% said, I don't know. So again, is there a relationship between this and the poor collection levels in municipalities, or municipalities simply aren't cutting people's water off? Is there something deeper? And if there is, how do we go about that? And is that actually even a priority, or we're just chasing grant expenditure? I'll leave it to yourselves. Another one, debt. We often hear about how much municipalities owe ESCOM, how much municipalities owe water boards, how much municipalities owe the water trading entity. All valid, all true. A debt less spoken about is households. And those are the main users in the municipal context. If that's not arrested, I don't know which private sector we think is going to be interested in the sector, one. But secondly, I don't know how the service is going to be sustainable. So again, I would ask, what are we doing with this information in terms of the strategic direction and the things that the country wants to achieve? Probably have different answers, but I'll put it on the table. National Treasury is a source. Then 60% of our municipalities are bankrupt and insolvent, and we're talking about private sector investment in municipal water and sanitation. The simple question I often ask is, which municipality would you love to put your pension in? If you don't have a quick answer, then we mustn't talk about the private sector in a meaningful way, because we're really not serious. And that's not being negative. That's the bank balance starter story. What are we going to do about this? Because that influences whether or not we come or go in this specific space. Then another one that I find quite interesting about strategic decision making in the sector. So we've got 60% of municipalities being bankrupt. In terms of eradication of backlogs, okay, we went from 8.8 to 8.7, lots of nuance, lots of detail, topic for another day. What's very good is piped water inside the dwelling. We went from 46% to almost 60%. The issue here, as you go down, it becomes more expensive to provide the service. So I would ask, are increasing levels of service in a sector that's becoming increasingly non-financially viable a wise strategic decision that a country should be going in? That's something for all of us to reflect on. The view is no, let's legalize informal connections so that water that goes missing now can no longer go missing, forgetting that we're struggling with collection of revenue, enforcement of bylaws, but we can be hopeful. Maybe this will work out. Maybe it won't. I don't know. And then my last slide is, because a part of the topic was what to not do. I'd argue we must avoid strawmen and single stories. What is a strawman? A strawman is a logical fallacy that occurs when someone misrepresents an opponent's position to make it easier to attack. And then Chimamanda says the danger of a single story is that it creates stereotypes which rob people of their dignity by reducing them to an incomplete and often negative narrative. And I've seen quite a lot of that when it comes to local government. And again, South Africans are a weird bunch. People will say all the negative things about municipalities and expect the private sector to be excited to invest in those same municipalities. I'm not quite sure how that works, but in all of this, what I often find in the water sector is people are fixated on the technical solutions, and we forget that there's an interdependency between the different types of infrastructure. What becomes ignored even more is the stuff at the top here, the social systems, the economic systems, and the political systems in which local government must operate by law. Incidentally, the definition of a municipality in the Systems Act is community, council, and administration. So when people say, take Joburg. Joburg is a useless municipality. I'm slow to say that. Being a resident of Joburg, that's voted, I consider myself to be part of that municipality. And whenever I'm to be critical about my municipality, I always reflect on the role that I've played in that municipality. But as humans would have it, it's easy to throw stones from a glass house and make it someone else's problems. So I think with all of the data and information that we have, we really have to think quite carefully about the direction in which we want to go in, and not to oversimplify things that are very complex. I think that hasn't worked out very well for us thus far, and do better. I'll stop there, Chair. I trust I've kept time. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Luvalo. I think there's a really useful provocation there. I mean, the idea that data is being used to both discredit certain action or institutions, but then also used to try and promote action or prompt action, I think is a useful thing to think about. So there's a lot in that. Thank you very much for your input. The last slot is my own, to demonstrate some of the data on the National Strategic Hub. Fortunately, I can cut my own time, so I will be very brief in this demonstration. Maybe as some preamble to the National Strategic Hub contains data sources that we source from data owners, and produce data tools and data insights through that data. So we don't generate and share data ourselves. We just surface it and provide insights. So in the case of water and sanitation, we have a state of water and sanitation dashboard, and that at the moment is using Department of Water and Sanitation data largely. One of the tabs which I'll show you is sourcing National Treasury data, but a lot of what, well, in fact, all of what I'm going to show you is contained within the systems that have been spoken about already from DWS. And given Stephen's presentation earlier, there's a gold mine there that can be used to visualize and to cut and slice in different ways. So I'm going to just share my screen. So I hope. Can someone just confirm that they're seeing the State of Water and Sanitation dashboard?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is on the National Strategic Hub website. You will see that there's a tab called Data Tools, and underneath that is Dashboards. And there's a range of different dashboards there. One of them is called the State of Water and Sanitation dashboard. It has been there for a long time. It has recently been completely overhauled. So this was only published for the first time yesterday. If you want to go, if you've seen it before, rather go and have a look at how it's been updated. So the first tab is dealing with service access, and it covers some of the fields, a very, very small number of the fields that Stephen mentioned. So up here we can see province, WSA, and year. You can select that, and it's got information about population, households, and service levels in relation to RDP standards. There's urban-rural splits, reliability and access numbers. Just a technical thing here, if people aren't familiar with using the site and finding it hard to navigate, some useful buttons down here is open in full screen mode, and also to fit to page, so that you can view these dashboards more easily. So we've got numbers here about household density, numbers of households, below the RDP standard for water and sanitation. The next tab deals with water quality. So these are the fields that Solomon was talking about. You can view a province as a whole. So there's aggregated data for Gauteng in this instance, or we can select a particular municipality in a particular year, and it's got the compliance scores drawn from the DWS dataset. So it's exactly the same information. We're just making it accessible in a slightly different way and visualizing it so you can use it as a snapshot. If somebody wants to view the actual figures on any of these tables, you can right-click, show as a table, and the actual numbers do come down at the bottom. It maybe was a bad example, but for figures where they're numbers like this, you can get them in a table form as well. And then definitions here. The next tab deals with wastewater quality. So it's the green drop compliance indicators, and those are all aggregate indicators. As Solomon showed, there's a lot of detail behind these figures. And you can select a WSA in this case as well. Then the next one is the municipal self-assessment data, MUSA. Some of it is a little bit outdated, but it's useful nonetheless to see some trends. So the last information available here is for 2018, but you can clearly see some trends that are going on in particular municipalities: staff capacity, operations and maintenance, compliance data. So you can start to tell stories and trends from some of this information. This is municipal self-assessment, so it's originating in municipalities but collected by DWS. Then the next one is non-revenue water data. So this is also DWS. The last information that we could download from the DWS site is 2023. So here you're looking at non-revenue water percentages, water loss percentages. Something that's particularly useful to some people is system input volumes, water losses in actual liters or kiloliters per annum. Then the next tab is the last tab. This is from the MFMA Section 41 reports. And what this deals with is money owed by municipalities to water boards. So Lubabalo did touch on this, but this is a work in progress tab. We are going to add this such that you can see which municipalities owe money to which water boards. and how much and how old that data is. So we can actually start to grapple with the issue of affordability and where debt actually moves through the chain of water supply up through the process. So those are the 6 tabs that are contained. As I said, it is a work in progress, so it will be updated. Please do come back and have a look. And given the amount of information that Stephen shared with us, we hope we can collaborate with DWS to visualize some of their data and expand the dashboard over time. So, colleagues, I'm going to end my presentation there. Fortunately, we do still have half an hour of time left.
Thanks, Nick. Wow, yeah, I mean, this has been a super dynamic session. It's our last one for the year. We're closing off until 2026. So just to start with some thank yous. Thank you to our speakers, Solomon, Dr. Murray, Stephen Murray, thank you for jumping in last minute. Nonhla Kanipo and Lubabalo. Yeah, I think this was, as always, such a great spread of perspectives. And you really highlighted what's happening in the sector, what tools we have. It's clear that there is a kind of gold mine of stuff out there, as well as some really important provocations. I mean, the provocation on making sure that data is telling the right story, to be wary of oversimplifying, to kind of, really scrutinize the analysis we're taking forward. And, I think, Nonhla, what you were raising very strongly is ensuring that there's enough integration between different data demands and systems, enough reciprocity and mutual benefit with the different data flows, and the kind of capacity building that's required underlying that. And yeah, there were some also really meaningful demonstrations from the speakers on how data can be used. And I really think that this is one of the most interactive sessions we've had from the audience. So a big thank you to the participants. Thanks for your time, thanks for your thoughts, thanks for your provocations. A big thanks to there was a lot of behind the scenes work to get our dashboard up and running for this session, and to Nick for leading these sessions. We've signaled this before, but on the StratHub website, there's a dedicated Insight Exchange page. So you can go back into the recordings, you can look at our provocation pieces. This is where we'll share it with the participants, but this is where we'll share the presentations from the speakers. We'll list the resources that were kind of cited here. And then there's also, of course, the dashboards and data products that speak to these sessions. So we are closing off the year. We're planning to be back for our monthly session on the first Tuesday of February. And tentatively, we are looking at designing that session together with Stats SA on population dynamics. So yeah, without any further ado, I think we can close. Thank you all for your time, and we'll see you in 2026.